Hello, and welcome to part 6. I have so much to talk about that I am completely overwhelmed. So, I'm not even gonna move. We are going to sit here, and we're going to talk about our feelings. Look, Laltrek, you paying attention to this? You sit right there, you fucker. And Vickard, I know you're down there in New Londo. I know you can hear me. You sit right there and you listen to this shit as well, because this is partially your fault. Now, I joked about it on Twitter. I said, maybe I'll turn it into a podcast this episode because there's so much. We're fucking doing it. At least for the next 10 minutes. So strap yourselves in and enjoy. Now, I did mess up in my prior part by saying that Crystal upgrade path is related to magic. I was just thinking about Dark Souls 2. Just because the visuals were similar. That is not the case at all, of course. One of the things, people say they would prefer to be able to forget about Dark Souls, just so that they could replay the games and have that experience for the first time. I would much prefer to just forget Dark Souls 2 ever happened in some ways. It's a fine game, you know, I'm not saying it's a shitty game or anything like that. But in many ways, I would prefer to forget it because it did kind of fuck up the lore of the first game, and it did fuck up some of the things. But one of those things is that it makes me, whenever I see this crystal stuff on weapons, it makes me think of magic. Anyways, that preface out of the way, we are going to sit here. You see this image. I'm putting up an image right now. We are going to go down the list of every upgrade path in the game, and I am going to bitch about this. It is time to bitch, my friends. Now, take a look at this damn thing. Look how many of these goddamn upgrades that there are. There are, how many are there? There's 13 different paths that you can go down. Okay, Raw. That is just early power. You can upgrade something to Raw, and all that does is remove all the scaling and makes the weapon more powerful. Increases its base damage. Almost completely worthless in this game. Never use it. Next one, Normal. Thank you, Normal. Normal! I love you, Normal. This is what I'm going to be using. It just scales with your normal stats. That's it. That's all it does. Just scales normally. Thank you, Normal, for being normal. Boss weapons. Boss weapons, you can take any plus 10 weapon of any specific class, take a boss soul, and just kind of just find a hole, just start fucking the weapon with their soul, just any part of it, it doesn't matter. The little tail end that goes wiggle woggle at the bottom of their butt, where their butt used to be, whatever, it doesn't matter. And it will transform magically into a boss soul, and boss souls have all sorts of weird scaling of their own, and so forth. Lightning. Lightning has no scaling at all. It doesn't scale with anything. And I will point out that lightning is related to Gwyn and the Light Soul, but more on that later. Crystal. Crystal is the one I made the mistake on because I was thinking of two. You can't repair crystal weapons, and there's no backsies with crystal weapons. If you upgrade something to a crystal weapon, that's it. It's crystal forever. You can't do shit about it. Crystal's obviously related to Seath, and by extension, not Seath's soul, because Seath doesn't really... In 2, he has his own soul. This is a whole other thing I'll get to much later. But he is actually carrying a shard of Gwyn's soul. And it's also related to magic, of course. Divine. Divine... again, it's sort of related to Gwyn. It's a faith scaling thing. It scales with your faith. Occult. Occult is the same fucking one. Except now it's just occult. And magic. Magic scales with intelligence. Intelligence is related to Seath because he's the father of all modern magic. Or it's related to the witches who were also known for their magical prowess. Specifically, Pyromancy, which eventually became bastardized and became its own thing that was unrelated to sorcery itself. That's a whole other thing. We'll get into that later, too. And Enchanted is also another intelligence thing. You increase that at the... you increase... You can transition between magic to Enchanted. And, let's see. Fire. Fire is the same thing as lightning. It doesn't scale either. Chaos is an extension from fire. And even the lightning doesn't have an extension. It doesn't become something else. Fire can become chaos for some reason. Plot reasons, I guess. And chaos, you would think, well, if the other one didn't scale with anything, then this must not scale with anything. No, this one scales with humanity. And fire and chaos are related to the witches again, so there's another sorcery connection. Dragon upgrade path. There are 8 of those in the whole game. They're just weapons that came from something's body part. Like you chop off a piece of a dragon, suddenly it's just a weapon. Like you cut off his tail. Oh look, his tail is now a gigantic battle axe for some reason. Whatever. Unique weapons are kind of just what it's twinkling titanite, basically. But unique weapons are just whatever else. I looked through the list of these things earlier, and I kind of got the gist that all of the unique ones are things like, I guess I could call them heroic weapons or legendary weapons. They all seem to be, for the most part anyways, related to, like, Black Knight weapons, for example, or the Astora Straight Sword from Astora. All of these are sort of infamous weapons. And that's it. That's all the upgrade paths, thank God. Now, I will point out, none of these paths are related to the Dark Soul. None of the paths are related to Nito. Thematically, the whole upgrade system, as far as the plot goes, is a huge fucking mess. There are aspects to each soul, right? Because from the first flame, there came Gwen, and there came Manus. There came Manus, as well as the Witch of Izalith and Nita, the 4 souls. Each one of those has its own aspect, you know, things that are related to it. Lightning and sunlight are related to faith and sort of the idea of light itself. Gwen, fire and magic are linked with intelligence and life. The Witch of Izalith, physicality is linked with darkness and humanity. Manus. And I guess diseases and things like that. Poison, I guess, maybe. With death. Maybe the concept of hollowing. That might be an aspect of it. You could read into it that way, I guess. But maybe not. So, you would think that all the upgrade paths would be related to those things. Like, faith and light would be related to the lightning path. But it isn't. Lightning upgrades with nothing. It has no scaling. It doesn't scale with faith at all. You would think that fire or, you know, magic would be related to, you know, the intelligence life thing. The Witch of Izalith. Nope. Not quite. Not quite. And you would think that maybe the, like, normal path, or the one that's the most physical, would be related to your soft humanity count or something. No, nothing like that. Instead, you know, lightning scales with nothing. Fire scales with nothing. The Chaos Flame. Oh my god. The Chaos Flame scales with humanity. So the aberration of the Witches of Izalith's soul scales with the Dark Soul. That is so fucking stupid. Ugh. And nothing scales with hollowing or cursing or disease or anything like that. So it is a huge, just thematically off the gate, it is a huge clusterfuck. And now we actually get into the actual numbers of it. I will point out that none of these upgrade paths do anything except for one upgrade path. In the whole game, only one of them actually does anything. And that is the Divine upgrade path. The Divine upgrade path, once we go over to the little skeleton lair down here in the catacombs, once we get to that, then once you kill a skeleton, it will keep them from reassembling even if there's a necromancer present. A very minor thing, most people don't even bother with it. That is the only upgrade path in the entire game that actually does a goddamn thing. The rest are nothing but numbers. The rest are nothing but a fucking Excel spreadsheet waiting to happen. Like, look at the ones that don't even scale. Like Raw, Lightning, Crystal, Fire, and Dragon. None of those have scaling. Chaos is sort of in there as well, but it scales with your soft humanity. Which one of those should you use? Should you make some... Well, Dragon doesn't really count in this case. Let's just say Raw, Lightning, Crystal, and Fire, because Dragon is unique to itself. Out of those 4, which should you use? Who knows? Who the fuck knows? You shouldn't use Raw because it sucks ass. Between Lightning and Fire, you probably shouldn't use Crystal because you can't repair it. And because, you know, once you go Crystal, you can't go back because it has a big penis or something. I don't know. What do people want from me? And Lightning and Fire, there's always a huge debate over which of those is better. You end up just... Some people say you should use Lightning for PvP because there's not much things that have resistance against Lightning compared to Fire. Or if you're... maybe you should go fire first, because getting lightning upgrade pass is harder in the beginning, and it's just a huge mess. Just a huge mess. Like even if you're an intelligence user, for example, you're casting magic, and you decide, well, obviously I would need the upgrade path that scales with the thing that I'm upgrading, which would be intelligence. Then you have two options: magic and enchanted. So what's the difference between magic and enchanted? Excel spreadsheet. Come on, let's break out the online calculators, because that's the only way we're gonna find out. You have to input your build and figure out which one does more damage than the other one. Can you figure out how to do that without using an Excel spreadsheet? Or without using, Mugen or something? Nope. You sure fuck can't. And here's the difference between them, between magic and enchanted. Enchanted and the other one, which is a cult. You can upgrade a cult from divine. That's the faith upgrade path. Enchanted has a little bit more physical scaling than magic does. Whereas magic would have everything dumped into intelligence scaling, for example. So, in theory, there is a point at which, in your stats, it is better to have enchanted over magic because of a very specific ratio between the two in terms of your normal, dexterity, strength scaling compared to your intelligence scaling. And it is just up to you to figure out exactly where that point is. I'm sure that there's a specific thing. This is something I've never bothered with in the game. Like, across all my various builds and stuff, this is something I research once and then forget about. It's one of the aspects of the game I detest, so I don't really know. I don't have a huge influx of knowledge about it. I don't care. I don't want to know about it. I detest this stuff. But the general consensus is that you want to stick with the first one. Stick with divine and stick with magic in like 90% of scenarios, unless you have a very specific build that you're going with. So, can you sense my frustration with this? Whereas if they had just gone with something like, look at divine. What if none of them had any relation to stats whatsoever? If none of them upgraded with anything? Like, they didn't have any scaling. They didn't upgrade your damage. Like, you could hit someone with a fire weapon, and it would do the exact same amount of damage as it did with hitting them with a raw weapon, or a normal weapon, or anything like that. And the only difference would be some sort of weird utility that was associated with it. Like, say, divine in this case. What does divine do, you might ask? And you could easily say, well, it just causes skeletons to stop reassembling themselves. Or there might be more than that, like, say, maybe it keeps hollows from standing back up, if there was a gameplay element or something. And then you could say, well, okay, that's interesting. What does crystal do? And you could say, well, crystal, if you miss an attack, it causes crystals to grow out of the ground that slow enemy movement or something. Just shit like that. Utility-based upgrade system. If you had something like that, then there would be no debates over this sort of weird Excel spreadsheet scaling nonsense, because then you could just say, well, it's a matter of preference. Do you want to slow enemies down? Do you want to keep things from reassembling? Do you want, something to be set on fire? Do you want it to be blinded? Or whatever the thing is, I'm thinking off the top of my head. It would have been so much easier that way. But even in 2, they still don't do that. And I can almost guarantee you that in Bloodborne, they're going to do the same shit. I don't know off the top. I don't know yet. But just knowing FromSoft, that's probably still what they're going to do, because they can't learn their fucking lesson about this shit. Anyways, I'm shaking right now. I'm shaking my fist. I'm not like shaking rage, but I'm emphasizing it as much as I can. I hate this system so goddamn much. Anyways, I just wanted to get that out on the table just to explain it. If anyone ever asks about this ever again, just redirect them to the front of this video. Okay, let's get going, sort of. Oh, wait. There is one more thing. Someone was asking how I got so high level and low gameplay hours whenever I exited my main menu. Cat Covenant. That's the short answer to that. I guess I'll explain more to that once we actually get inside of there, but that's basically how you do it. You can level up to obscene levels in just like a matter of minutes as soon as you start the game, practically. Second thing, someone mentioned about Rhea praying to gods that don't exist. They really don't. I mean, like she's praying to Gwen, and Gwen is just a dumb hollow at this point. So he essentially doesn't exist. She's praying to nothing. So I'm right. Show you. Now, if you don't like this intro, this 15-minute long intro, blame this image.
Help me.
Anyways, that's enough of that. Alright, this time, I did remember to speak to Lautrec. Here he is. Here's our lovely little companion. The guy that we rescued from the jail up in the Undead Parish, if you remember. That guy.
Ah, hello there. I have your reward. Please, accept it.
Finally! A sunlight medal. Now, of course, in Lordran, money doesn't really have any meaning for anyone. So actually receiving something unique is a pretty big reward.
I am grateful to you for freeing me.
What are we laughing about?
For you? Well, let's not be greedy now.
Now, I will point out in his dialogue that we haven't actually done anything to express our own distaste in actually getting that reward, but he's seeing everything through his own eyes. That is, people that are things like thieves and killers and things tend to see the world as a reflection of themselves. They think that everyone else has similar motivations to themselves, and that's how this is the world that they live in. So, that's your first hint that he himself is someone that is very greedy, very manipulative, and so on.
You again.
Well, second hint.
What is it? Our futures are murky. Let's not be too friendly now.
So even though you rescued him from, well, not certain death, but, certain imprisonment forever, for an eternity, he doesn't really want to be your buddy.
You again. What is it? Our futures are murky.
Let's not be too friendly now. Now, one thing I did miss out on is that he's supposed to give you a hint about Petrus up here. You're supposed to be able to buy something from him, and I don't think that I got to it in time. Before, they are gone now. Rhea and Petrus and, Nico and Vince, they're all gone. So I don't think that I can get that anymore. But basically, he hints that Petrus is up to no good, in so many words. And I'll also point out, of course, that he is sitting here staring at someone in particular. And of course, once again, Anastasia, broken legs, bloody skirt, no tongue. I think I do have one, yes. Actually, this is something I do need to touch on. Firekeeper Soul. Okay, I have gone over this once before, but someone pointed out, dead firekeepers result in no bonfire. In other words, in any case in which the firekeeper dies in this game, you can't use the bonfire from that point on. Whereas any other bonfire, you can walk up and just... I'm guessing you're using some of your own souls, your own humanity, even though you're not actually doing anything, and you're lighting it that way. Someone pointed out for the sake of saying, what is the relationship between the two of those things? And here we see Firekeeper Soul. Each Firekeeper is a corporeal manifestation of her bonfire, and a draw for the humanity which is offered to her. Her soul is annulled by infinite humanities and can boost the power of precious Estus Flask. Now, whether she has to physically be there or not, I don't know. But the Firekeeper is a corporeal manifestation of her bonfire. That is, she is consigned to that bonfire. The fate of her is the fate of the bonfire. So if she dies, possibly the bonfire dies as well? I'm not really sure. It's not very clear. Her soul is annulled by infinite humanity and can boost the power of precious Estus Flask. In last part, I did say that I'm not sure why they have infinite humanity. Probably the most straightforward answer would be that people are giving them their humanity all the time. That is, the undead are visiting these bonfires up here, and they are constantly burning their own humanity in the bonfire. And that humanity isn't necessarily just going away. Like, we can reverse our hollowing using it, we can kill it. We don't have the thing, so we can't do it here. But in that way, we are offering humanity through this bonfire down below to Anastasia. And it's said not inside this Firekeeper soul, which I'll go ahead and use. It's not said in this Firekeeper soul. And this reinforces our Estus Flask, brings this to +2 as opposed to +1. I should have taken off DS Fix's HUD modification while I was thinking about it. Oh well, worry about that next part. But anyways, this goes down to her, and something that we read in the other Firekeeper souls, which I think we'll get one of later on, that should have this description. But below a thin layer of skin, all of these women, in all of these cases are women, all have humanity just writhing around inside of them. And it seems to be suggested that the more humanity that they have, then the kind of more disfigured that they become, because all of these souls are writhing around, physically writhing around inside of them. Pretty grotesque. You don't have anything else to say, do you, buddy?
Oh, hello. Terrific to see us both, and pray.
And never go hollow, no. I'm better this time. I did use whatchamacallit, I reversed my hollowing. Just so that I could take care of some business later on. No. Now, I came up here just briefly just to show Xena is not over there yet. Because even though we talked to him, haven't got anything done with him just yet. That's enough of that. Just wanted to show you that he's not there just yet. Just wanted to point that out. I'll also point out that there's not much... You may be wondering what Xena is. There's not really any information on Xena. It's just referred to as an ancient land. And of course he is... Oh, he's back. But of course, Domhnall is a collector, and that's pretty much all that we have on him. If you remove his mask, actually, Domhnall's mask, I might show this in a later part, he is a very old person. He looks visibly very old. And of course, Xena's an ancient land, so maybe he is suggested that he's just very knowledgeable. He's a hollow from a very long forgotten land, or so on. We'll speculate more on that later. For now, let's talk to Haircut.
Oh, you again? Me? I've become separated from my lady. I've scoured near and far, but no sight of her. Where could she have gone? My lady, to think I swore to protect you with my life.
Oh, he's real torn up about it, isn't he? So sad to see
Your
my lady go.
Highness, where have you gone? I am entirely to blame for this. Oh, woe is me. I am unworthy, deathly so.
Now, I wonder if this is going to trigger Lautrec's dialogue.
Oh, I'm sorry. Miracles, was it? Sometimes I lose myself. Pay me no mind.
No. Don't worry about it, buddy. We have noticed we have no talk option now. We can actually converse with him, beyond what we just got through doing. And he says nothing afterwards. So let's grab Lautrec real fast, and see if that has picked up on anything or not. I don't know if that has or not, but I'm not going to forget about Laurentius, by the way. Let's see if that's done anything. If not, then, wasted a few seconds.
Ah, you certainly are keeping busy. Care to pay
Yes!
for a useful tip?
Yes! I didn't miss it. It does cost quite a bit, though. 3,700, but that's not that big of a deal.
A wise choice indeed. Maiden Thurland and her followers recently arrived in this land, but she became stranded deep below the catacombs. Her followers either fled or were reduced to hollows, leaving Maiden Thurland all alone. Not a bad tip, huh? A Nubar cleric would be replete with humanity.
Now, he's implying a lot of things in all this dialogue. First of all, Thurland. Rhea, that's Rhea. Rhea Thurland. That's her full name. She and her little buddies went down into the catacombs, of course, and he's hinting that they just so happened to have been trapped down there. And of course, Petrus is the only one that managed to escape unscathed. And he is implying that this may have been as a result of some sort of suspect behavior on his part.
That tip I gave you? I heard it from a fleeing old man. That poor bastard. All his robes and trinkets won't help him now. What's so funny? And he really got into that, didn't he? But again, I will point out he's kind of seeing things through his own eyes once again. That
he's the reason why he thinks that Petrus is probably the reason why. I don't know. It's kind of suspect because he says that all of his robes and trinkets won't help him now. But he was also referring to a fleeing old man. The fleeing old man he seems to be referring to is Petrus, but at the same time, he seems to suggest that Petrus now, as a result of this, is, you know, in dire straits. Now, I will point out that probably the reason for this is because this audio was recorded before they had him returning. Originally, Petrus was going to be trapped in the catacombs, and you had to go rescue him. This was in, you know, sort of their beta or alpha development. And at some point, they decided to just bring him on back. So the reason why he has sort of conflicting dialogue is because the information itself is conflicting. Because the Frog Nation recordings that they had were, you know, they're too old at this point. So the gist of it is that now in the current version of the game, he returns because they wanted to more heavily imply that he really just did not like them. And whereas before, he would have just been trapped along with them. Let's see if he has anything else to say now.
Oh, hello there. Have you spoken with Sir Lautrec? Splendid. In the depths of the catacombs, Milady slipped off the giant's coffin and into a hole. Her two companions are no longer human, and the lass weeps in solitude. Right now, you could do as you please with her. The poor little purebred is entirely helpless.
Okay, I love this. As soon as he realized that we spoke to Lautrec, then he immediately opens up with all this information. Before, he didn't seem to want to tell us anything about it, really. Just, you know, oh, poor milady, poor milady. But now, it's almost as though he told Lautrec all this information without really worrying about it. And now that we have spoken to Lautrec, it's almost as though he sees in us the same sort of thing that he sees in Lautrec and himself. That we are someone that can be trusted with the knowledge that he's doing something unscrupulous. So he immediately just goes ahead and basically tells us that he is not really concerned that Rhea Thurland is down there with now Nico and Vince, who have immediately gone hollow. So they went hollow before he even left. And he did seem to escape. She slipped off a coffin. As soon as we get down there eventually.
The effectiveness of
Thanks, haircut. As soon as we get down there, it'll become clear where exactly they quote-unquote tripped and fell. And we'll meet another party that was involved in this. But the gist of it is that he didn't necessarily do anything bad to them. He didn't lead them down there and push them down there, in other words. He seems to have gone down there with the full intent of helping them, although he absolutely despises them. But at the first moment that it became clear that they were in danger, he seems to have left. So I just wanted to make sure and point it out. He's basically just a coward. In other words, that's what I'm getting at.
Well, I see you made it out. Yeah, I made it out safely too. I have my Pyromancy the Great Swarm, so I can usually manage with a bit of care. Oh yeah, by the way, I can share my spells with you. I think you have a knack for it. All you need are the materials. I'll be pleased to help you. Unless you find the magic's unsavory.
Now, be sure to answer this correctly. Do you find the magic's unsavory? Not, do you want my help? So answer no.
Yeah, wonderful. I'm sure that they'll be of some use, some assistance. Here, first take this.
Yes, thank you. Now, don't ask me what exactly this... The Pyromancy Flame, I don't know if it's something that is inhabiting you, or if it's a physical item that you're carrying around. It seems to be a physical item.
A flame from the Great Swamp. Now you're a fully fledged pyromancer. Why, let's get started right now.
Now, that's all it takes to be a fully fledged pyromancer. You just have to have the flame. And this is a recurring theme in Dark Souls. All the magics are basically just things that are hand-me-downs from earlier ages. No one seems to really even understand what they are or how they work, for the most part. They just have a vague knowledge of exactly what their nature is.
Pyromancy is the art of casting fire. Produce flame, then channel it, just as our ancestors did. A pyromancer must be in tune with nature herself. My home, the Great Swamp, is an abundant store of nature. You will understand one day. It only takes time.
I will also point out that it seems to be where there is life, where there is a great abundance of life, there is great control over the flame. And this is important because this links to the Witch of Izalith. And again, what does the Witch of Izalith's soul represent, basically? Life. Life, its opposite, is death, it's Nito's soul. So the Witch of Izalith, and the Witches of Izalith were the ones that burned down the arch trees. They're the ones that are linked with the ancient art, the sorcery art. It used to be sorcery. Pyromancy used to be sorcery. And it was eventually corrupted. But they were the ones that eventually invented pyromancy. So, pyromancy is still linked with the concept of life.
Pyromancy has a, well, rather primitive aspect to it. It meshes poorly with advanced culture. And pyromancers are considered rather unsavory. Which is fine, as I never got along with anybody anyway. So, for me, turning undead didn't change a thing.
I will point out, of course, Laurentius is a very likable fellow. He's very personable. He's, he doesn't seem to ever really have any antagonism for anyone. Of course, you did rescue him, so maybe we're getting a slanted view on things. But he is a pretty nice guy. So why would anyone dislike him? The only reason why people would dislike him is just because of this cultural thing. People do not like pyromancers because, as you might imagine, people that light things on fire do not really go over too well in modern culture because everything's made out of fucking wood and straw and shit. So he's going to be burning shit down all the time and whatnot. So that seems to be the stigma against them. And, of course, he does seem to be almost sort of a country bumpkin. You can see from his his cloth and whatnot, that, it is sort of just rudimentary. It's very basic. And that does sort of give you the impression that all pyromancers, modern pyromancers, just might be country bumpkins, so to speak. So all the pyromancy that kind of goes on seems to be in these isolated pockets of the world that don't have much technology in them, but are still completely rife with life.
The pyromancer's flame is a part of his own body. The flame develops right along with his skill. When I gave you that flame, I gave you a part of myself. Please take good care of him.
Another very important thing to point out. This is one of those things, it seems pretty self-evident, but if you don't really think about it, it doesn't go any further beyond the surface level interpretation. But again, it's suggested that the actual art of pyromancy is an extension of your own soul, your own life. So whenever you are manipulating that, you are taking something out of yourself and using that in the world. And again, the Witch of Izalith, what happened to her? As we eventually learn, she became corrupted because she attempted to use her own soul, her own, the art of pyromancy. She attempted to use that to recreate, or to create another first flame. Another basis for which all other souls can originate, in which all other souls can feed. That, by extension, goes throughout the entire world. Because what is the first flame? The first flame, like the 4 different Lord Souls, are just extensions of that first flame. They're all extensions of one core idea. And that core idea is just everything that is about the world. Life, death, darkness and light, and so on. All of that is relative to itself. So whenever she was attempting to do that, she was attempting to pull her own essence out and to manifest that in the world. So the more that you think about that, the more it becomes clear what exactly pyromancy is and how that's related to the world around you, and more specifically to you as a person. Because the light soul does seem to be I'm sorry for not moving, by the way, but the light soul does seem to be something that is very, very centered around the idea of purpose. Like, all of them have their own little aspects. I'll say this, give me a second as I think about this. I'll say it this way, this is a very good way to explain this.
Be safe, friend.
Okay, I'm going to... Whoops. Okay, whatever. I'm going to pull out my Estus flask. This is kind of turning into a podcast, isn't it? I'm actually later going to... What the fuck am I doing? Where is... Oh, go stupid of me. I'm actually going to go up and beat the bell gargoyles today. Okay, Estus Flask. This is a very good way to explain this. Or to... This is another theory that I have, sort of. The undead treasure, these dull green flasks filled with the Estus bonfire, fills health points. The Estus flasks are linked to the Firekeepers. The Dark Tales also make a reference. An emerald flask from the Keeper's soul. She lives to protect the flame and dies to protect it further. Now, I will point out, again, the fires that we see are all extensions of the first flame. These are not extensions of Gwyn's soul. That's important to note. These are all extensions of the first flame. Gwyn is just burning his soul, the soul of light, to keep the first flame bright, essentially. But the Firekeepers have dark souls. They have humanity. And they are burning those to keep the individual bonfires lit. So they're basically doing the same exact thing that Gwyn is doing. And of course Gwyn eventually goes hollow because he burns out, and in a very similar way, the Firekeepers may very, very well have the same thing happen to them. But I was going to point out the Estus Flasks are made from Firekeeper souls, and all the Firekeepers have all been human, as far as I know. More about that later, once we get to Aunt Orlando, if I can remember. But it seems to be that this Estus Flask is made from the essence of the Dark Soul. So it kind of makes me wonder, if we were to make another kind of Estus Flask, something like Estus is supposed to be the essence of the first flame. It is life. It is death. It is everything. And if we were to make something out of an Estus Flask out of, say, the Light Soul, the Dark Soul is linked to the physical, right? It's linked to, because as I said before, all the dark nature spells are all physical items. So whenever we drink it, we regain health, right? So what if we made something from the Light Soul? We made a flask from a Light Soul. Would that, consuming it, cause you to be enlightened? Like, would it raise your intelligence? Would it make you wiser? That sort of thing? If we made one from a life, centered soul, from the Witch of Izalith, if we took a witch and used her soul to create a flask, would drinking it give you renewed purpose in life? Would it kind of cure hollowing, that sort of thing? And one that was made from, like, Nito's people. They're not in this game, but the Finito, if we're taking a Dark Souls 2 thing. If we did make one from that sort of, those souls, then it wouldn't kill you, I don't guess, but it might do something like center you. It might give you Zen. It might elevate you to a Zen-like state in which you're able to let go of your earthly bonds. And, sort of, instead of having renewed purpose, you would fulfill your purpose. Because all of these are just cross little, balancing things. They're Asian concepts. The whole idea of everything being balanced, everything having relative aspects to life and whatnot. All of this is centered around all that. So, in regards to the Firekeepers, in regards to Pyromancy, and all of this shit, you can see how it's all possibly interrelated. And again, what I was trying to say down there in the first place, about Firekeepers, about them dying and not being able to relight their things, I think that's just a gameplay convention. That once you lose it, because you're supposed to be compelled to go find the keeper that has been killed, or to regret killing her, or so on. But the gist of it, I think, if you were to look at it at a completely lore perspective, you would think that if you killed a Firekeeper, then you would get a bunch of humanity, right? Because they're absolutely replete with humanity. And it's not like they're burning all the humanity at once. So whenever you kill them, in theory, all their humanity would explode out and you would collect all of it. But that's not the case. You just get a soul. A Firekeeper soul, specifically, that is absolutely just... It's not replete with humanity, it's just a soul. That's all it is. It's almost like a boss soul in a way. Really strange, just the way that all this works together. So why is it that you can relight some bonfires? Does that imply that the Firekeeper that's linked to that bonfire is alive somewhere? I don't know. It could just be a gameplay convention. It could also be that you're actually using some of your own humanity, your own souls, even though you don't see it in actual gameplay, to temporarily light the fire itself. That may be the case. I think it's just one of those things that Miyazaki sort of just... Again, like even Petrus up here. There's conflicting dialogue from Frog Nation even about something simple as this. So obviously, we're not going to have much luck in trying to explain away everything in the game, because a lot of these things are incomplete concepts that they never got around to really finalizing.
Oh, hello there. I'm pleased to see you safe, as always. If you provide the materials, I can teach you pyromancy.
Thank you, buddy. Now, I'm not actually going to bother with this too much right now. I might end up upgrading it. Part of his own body.
Well,
okay. And let's look at a few of these just to be safe. Flame carvers and like as inspect which seems to symbolize the strength of the fire manipulating pyromancers. There's going to be a lot of things. I don't think any of these are major plot points. One of the most basic promises for the sphere, the flame thus created is fierce. The more basic a pyromancy is, the more primal it is, the more fierce it is, the more powerful it happens to be. Which is not a huge thing, but it's just one of that'll help you understand the aspect of pyromancy. Pyromancy of Carmina, who harnessed the power of flame to actualize the inner self. Again, flame is linked to the concept of inner actualization, purpose, life. Iron Flesh boosts defense and resilience. The use of this pyromancy requires caution, as the caster becomes exceedingly heavy and unable to move freely. This is one of those weird little things that pyromancy is not necessarily a... This is contrary to what you might think. It's not actually something that is just fire magic. Pyromancy is actually this magic, this technique of life and purpose. And you can manipulate magic in Dark Souls to create all sorts of crazy-ass little things. And this is one of those things. This actually has nothing to really do with fire, exactly. But you manipulate it, you're able to increase your defense, and that slows your movement by compensation. Just another one of those little weird little things. Pyromancy Carmina again, who harness the power of flame to actually... Guys. Intense sweating reduces flame damage. Fortunately, it doesn't seem to dehydrate you. Carmina, the most accomplished pupil of Salaman, the master pyromancer, pioneered new directions in the art of pyromancy. Salaman, as we will learn later once we get down to Blighttown and we are able to uncover... we'll see when we get there. Salaman was the sort of first human that was... He's basically the first human pyromancer. Because up until then, the only ones that knew pyromancy were the Witches of Izalith. And it wasn't until the fall of the Witch of Izalith that pyromancy found its way into the hands of human beings. And Salaman obviously trained someone else, Carmina in this case, the most accomplished people, blah blah blah. And Carmina ended up being the one that ended up disseminating most of these spells. And that's about it. Yeah, fireball. Fire damage goes fireball, because make them effective against corporeal beasts and undead who by nature fear flame. This is one of those little weird things. The undead actually are afraid of fire. Even though we've seen them not be afraid of fire at all.
There go, Otto.
So, that's enough out of that. There are a couple of things. Someone pointed out, as I was complaining about how... Ah, shit. What the hell is that? Hope I didn't... Frame rate dropped remarkably for a second. Made me panic. Earlier, the power went out, and I had to start over on a few things. So it kind of has made me cautious about things. But I was complaining about a lot of the movesets in the game. Like, specifically, I would think I was demonstrating the Claymore and pointing out that... Hold on, I'll just backstep. Like, turning your back. Turning your back like this is incredibly dumb. Because, in actuality, fencing, sword fighting is very, very fast. Like, way faster than what you see in this game. So whenever you do something as dumb as this, even if you're backstepping, as soon as you turn your back, those few frames of animation, and you're swinging the sword, you know, this way, then immediately your opponent is going to be able to just stab you right in the fucking back. It's going to be very fast, because everyone actually, like even like what we're seeing here, he has a sword on his shoulder. Normally, whenever you're in combat, you would enter a combat stance in which you ready the sword, and you have it sort of elevated. I can't even show it since there's no animation for it. but you would have it elevated to the point, like, you see these vines in the background? You would elevate it sort of at that point, and you would try to just keep the sword elevated at that point, and then whenever you want to attack, you just briefly sort of chop the air. This sort of really hard sort of follow-through swing that he's doing, where it pulls all the way to the opposite side of his body, and it makes him pull his entire weight forward again, trying to compensate for it. That's one of the things that I'm talking about whenever I'm saying that the swordplay in this game is obviously not realistic by any stretch of the imagination. And the guy that you're playing as apparently has no idea what he's doing. Which is a common little thread that you will find in the Dark Souls community. People pointing out that this guy is not really trained in the art of most forms of combat, apparently. Because he does things incorrectly all the time. Of course, it could just be because it's a video game, but hey, we're reading into this because it's Dark Souls. So, whenever you're doing all these actions, a lot of these are incredibly inefficient by a huge stretch of the imagination. But I was going to point that out because I think this is really the only example I have. Whenever you use something like a rapier, or in this case a nestock, for some reason the moveset is much closer to what it should be. Like, he's not readying the weapon because there is no such thing as a sort of readied combat stance in this game. But for the most part, all of the thrusting weapons seem to be more or less okay. Which means two things. It can mean either that FromSoft, were just replicating what they saw. Like, they were studying how actual animations, how the actual swords are used in real life. And fencing is obviously much more modern. You can find resources for this very easily. Because whenever people have their own contests in real life, they tend to be using these weapons. So they probably had a closer source material in doing these animations. Plus, there's not really many really stupid things that you can do with a thrusting weapon. It's just a thrusting weapon. Like this, especially with an S-stock, which can't really do slicing attacks, this doesn't make any sense. But if I had a better weapon to use, like a rapier or something, then this would be a better example. Anyways, the gist of it is that the other side of it is that even if it wasn't a mistake on FromSoft's part, which I'm certain that it is, you could use this to imply within the context of the game that the person that you're playing as is someone that has basic training in thrusting sword technique, which would imply that this is someone from an era in which the stuff that you're finding, like heavy suits of armor, probably in their own world outside of Anne Orlando, since time is convoluted, probably doesn't really exist much anymore. So that's the other interpretation that you can use with it. Okay, let's finally get going. Griggs didn't have anything to say, but there is a few more things I wanted to say about him, which I guess I'll do now. I'm sure you're all angry about the fact that this is taking so long. By the way, description of this: Thief Mask, Mask of Sinners. This was one of the starting classes. They hide their faces, stifle their voices, and hide in shadows. Does not provide much in the way of defense. Doesn't provide good thing on this in this big offering decent level of protection. So if you're starting as a thief, that's the general gist of it. You are a sinner. It's a Mask of Sinners. I don't know if that really has much of anything. Now me, I started as a brigand or a bandit, and my description is that hood-worn by brigands who raid mountain hamlets and attack travelers. In addition to protecting against the blazing sun, dust, and sand, it helps them tell friend from foe in the heat of battle. The addition of metal over a base of cloth are worn by the brigands who raid mountain hamlets and attack travelers. So basically, in terms of role-playing, I am a bandit. I'm a bad, naughty person. I kill people for money and whatnot. Now I'm going to go up here and I'm going to kill the gargoyles. Which mainly is just because I wanted to get Solaire's little first encounter out of the way before I went down and started dicking around with the Gaping Dragon. Because, of course, the Gaping Dragon, he has two summonables. Come on over, buddies. There's two things that you can... two people that you can summon with him, which is going to be Lautrec and Solaire. Gotta be careful with these guys once again. But I was going to talk about Griggs. I think actually my favorite weapon in the game just might be the S-stock. even though it is sort of historically inaccurate in many ways. Don't really mind too much. I liked its moveset, in other words. Basic thrusting, the side-to-side move. Baldur's Side Sword, again, sort of has that same thing going for it, but I also like the visual of it. I like this model. Very nice looking. Okay, let's go up here, and I will irritate you even further by, as soon as I get up here, just stop and, start talking about Griggs again. Again, I said this was sort of going to be a podcast one, because there's a lot of information in the game, and, actually, slowly drop down. And you notice that there's another summon sign over here that people tend to forget about. This one, you can summon Lautrec. I think you can summon both at the same time, but I'll play it safe and summon Solaire first, because I do want those Sunlight Medals. Anytime that you have victory over a boss, whenever you have Solaire summoned, you get a Sunlight Medal. And it's actually very difficult to come across Sunlight Medals. You can't summon when there's a summon in process. Okay, but Griggs, as soon as we get this started... Okay, yeah, you can't summon both of them. Alright, just to be safe. Okay, come on, sweetie pie. Aw, you're such a handsome fella. But Griggs, people wanted to point out, a few people were complaining about the fact that I didn't really talk about Griggs too much. Because Griggs is just kind of a, you know, he's just a chuckle fuck. He's just kind of an idiot in some ways. But I will point out he was wearing black robes. You notice this is the same exact gear that he was wearing. He was wearing a sorcerer hat, sorcerer cloak, but his were black. And I don't have the descriptions for these, so I can't show them to you, but I'll show you these. Sorcerer hat worn by proper sorcerers who studied at Vinheim Dragon School. The majority take pride in having studied at the academy, and look down on breaking the formal dress code established for sorcerers. That's kind of a weird description, isn't it? All they're doing there is just hinting at the fact that there's something to do with breaking dress code that is unusual. And that's all as far as descriptions go. Usually descriptions are unique between the hat and the chest piece. And I think the boots and the gauntlets are always just... They follow the conventions of whatever the chest piece's description is. But the black version of this, as we will learn later, and people... I was trying to explain in the comments, but I didn't go into much about Griggs just because we'll be talking more about this later once we go into Sin's Fortress. Thanks, DS Fix. We're going to have more of this shit, by the way. It is being caused by DS Fix. I'll probably have it fixed if I can remember it in the next one. But they have black cloaks, and black cloaks are usually... I'll get into it more later, but black cloaks are associated with spooks, what they refer to as spies in this game. Anyone that is wearing black is usually considered to be someone that has studied in sound-based sorcery. And that is considered to be sort of taboo because it's used by thieves and murderers and things like that. So people like to think, well, Griggs must be tracking Logan. You know, he's not actually there for his sake. He's actually tracking him, trying to figure out what he's researching and whatnot. And again, I'll get more into that later. And this is why I didn't want to get into it just now. But yes, I am very aware of all that. We'll talk more about it later. But I will mention that everyone in Vinheim, which is a town, it's not really a nation, it's described as being a town in the descriptions. Everyone in Vinheim seems to be an idiot that, again, like the Pyromancers, don't really understand the things that they're teaching one another. They're just using hand-me-down spells that were originally created by Seath. Again, I will explain that later. I'll go ahead and clip my Claymore, because I think that'll be a little bit better for clipping off tails. And of course, you don't need these guys, but I just wanted to have them around. Look at these two badasses. Alright, let's roll. And of course, I'm not going to interrupt the cinematic. Ooh, that was neat. He kind of fell through the planet. Alright. But here we go. I'm going to try, if I don't get his tail, I'm going to have to quit out. But I'm going to try to get his tail. Because I'm a completionist. Of course, this is a Demon Souls reference, because there was a very similar fight in Demon Souls. And of course, in Dark Souls 2, they again just replicate this fight. Oh, I didn't get him. I may have done this fight too late. There we go, okay. Because I may be very over-leveled at this point for this. He's not doing anything to Slayer. Ah, you little bastard. Got me from behind. And, oh, this is something else I wanted to mention. Oh, I'll probably have to get more into it later, but there is a concept in this game of, if you attack beyond... Whoop. If you attack beyond the range of, someone's shield... That, wow, this absolutely destroyed those guys. You get a gargoyle helm for doing this. Thanks, guys! I will be seeing you guys later. We get all that shit for doing it. I don't know. Do you always get Twin Humanities in this fight? I can't remember. Or if that's something that's unique to Lautrec. Oh well, there's nothing over here, by the way. I will point out all the little visuals up here. Actually, first of all, I mentioned I was going to say about you can attack beyond someone's shield. I'll get more into it later once we get the stupid scythe, because I know it's going to come up. But basically, there's a glitch in the way that the combat works that enables you to attack at a very certain angle. It's called dead angling. That will allow you to circumvent their shield. So sometimes whenever monsters attack well beyond the reach of your shield, like past your own body, they can do damage through your shield that way. And I think that's sort of what was happening against that Black Knight one day. Nicely rendered, huh? But yeah, this is the greater border of Anor Londo. Beyond this range, there is nothing. Beyond this range, there is... Of course, this is, again, a Demon Souls thing, but there's just the fog. This endless fog. Which, in Demon Souls, that was definitely a plot device. And this one, is they're just obscuring the fact that they don't have anything rendered. But Anor Londo is an isolated region of the world. And, of course, there's Sin's Fortress over there, which we can't access just yet. And we can see this place from Firelink, and I think Firelink is down here somewhere. I'm not going to get too close because I don't want to fall over. And up there, of course, you can see the Duke's Archives right there. Standing right above the point of my blade. And this is the walls of Anor Londo. So unlike Dark Souls 2, you can see pretty much everything that you can get to from almost anywhere in the game. Of course, our buddy isn't here just yet. Take a climb up. I hope these ladders are long enough that I don't fall through the planet whenever I try to slide through them this time. But anyways, oh, I never actually finalized that thought. The whole idea about all the weapons, you know, shitty movesets. The Chosen Undead, yeah, probably. Just to point that out, yeah, the Chosen Undead just might be an idiot when it comes to using actual weapons, because not everyone is a master in swordplay. Just going to say that. All right. Yeah, I really need to get rid of that DS fix thing. It's really creating a lot of weird rendering issues. The problem, I think, is the... I think I'm not going to slide here. The problem is the way that it's fixing the HUD. Because normally the HUD elements, like the weapon slot thing and the life bar and everything, are way too big. Like, they cloud a lot of the screen whenever they don't really need to be that big in the first place. I'll go ahead and try it here. Actually panics me. Alright, but he managed to sneak his way in here somehow whenever we were up there ringing the bell. So he seems to have been summoned here by the fact that we were ringing the bell. Or he just noticed the gargoyles were dead. There's a million explanations.
Greetings. I am Oswald of Careem, the partner. Thou appearest to lack faith. Yet magnanimous are the gods. Cometh thou to confess, or to accuse? For indeed all sins might.
Okay. Oswald here is a servant of Velka. And Velka is just another one of those description-based things that you don't really hear too much about. But everyone that has been around for Dark Souls long enough knows who Velka is. Velka is the goddess of sin. And specifically, she is linked with crows or ravens. Black is sort of her color. Oswald here is a pardoner, who, of course, is someone that deals with absolving sins or accusing people of being sinners and so on. And whether this is like an actual function of the world, like an official thing, it's not really clear. But honestly, you get the impression that Velka was just one of the hollows that was given a piece of Gwen's soul and just decided one day to take it upon themselves to be the quote-unquote goddess of sin. Yeah, that's just how gods sort of work in this game. Okay, but he is here to give us all sorts of little things. I might as well just go ahead and grab this. I'll show you this, if I can actually get it to show up. But you can purchase these to report. People love it whenever you use these against them, because actually it benefits them if they're professional invaders. Karmic Justice. Oh, goodness. Oh, Squirt. Squirt, this is kind of Squirt that I'm drinking. You're coming back, and you're not doing me a service. Karmic Justice. Miracle of the black-haired witch Velka. So now she's a witch. They describe her all sorts of ways. Temporary auto counter versus heavy damage for each sin. There is a punishment, and it is the task of the goddess Velka to define the sin and mete out the punishment. One of the things I will point out about miracles is that whenever you use a miracle, you are basically speaking to one of the gods. You are asking them for assistance, and they give you a meat of their own power. And in this case, whenever you use this, you are basically communicating with Velka, and she is giving you a small modicum of her own ability. And in this case, if you use this and someone is attacking you over and over again, then it will create a huge sort of Wrath of God sort of effect that will deal a lot of damage in the area. I don't really have much use for it, but you can make very, very specialized builds that make pretty good use of it. Medium for casting miracles of the gods. This is Velka's talisman. This black tuft of fur, again black, that serves as a talisman belongs to Velka, goddess of sin. It casts miracles not by drawing upon faith, but intelligence. So that's unusual. Because faith is something that is usually associated with Gwen, his soul. Intelligence is something that is usually associated with sorcery, which is something that is the realm of two people, the Witch of Izalith and Seath. Seath is the one that is usually considered to be the father of modern sorceries that all people use today, and prior to that, I guess, the Witch of Izalith was really known for being a sorcerer because she was the one that dealt with Pyromancy, which, once again, is not really exclusively about fire, but about life. So Velka, in some ways, is linked somehow, assuming that this is meaning much of anything. It could just be a gameplay convention. Like they just wanted a talisman that scales on intelligence, so they just kind of threw one in here. But you could also read into this and say, well, Velka must have some sort of relationship with either Seath, or she had some relationship with the Witches of Izalith at some point. Which, for a goddess of sin, might make sense. Okay, Bloodbite Ring, one of the infamous bite rings commissioned by Sor Astor of Karim. Karim is sort of the land of weirdos, as you might remember. Despite the dreadful rumors surrounding its creation, this ring is an unmistakable asset, and its ability to help prevent bleeding. It's one of those basic things. Despite the dreadful rumors surrounding this creation, the ring has some ability to prevent poison. These are, despite the dreadful rumors surrounding its creation, apparently in order to make something like this, there is some sort of ghastly rite associated with it. Maybe human sacrifice, who knows? Ring of Sacrifice, this mystical ring was created in a sacrificial rite of Velka, the goddess of sin. Its wearer will lose nothing upon death, but the ring itself breaks. This one seems to outright suggest that perhaps someone's life was sacrificed in order to create this ring, so that if you are to die, then nothing happens, or something of that nature. Again, these are gameplay elements, so it's not really clear one way or another how far you're supposed to read into it.
Has thou acquaintance with Petrus of Thurn? I wager you too has likely found much in common. For is he not too drenched in sin?
Yeah. I will point out he called him Petrus of Thurland. So, Rhea Thurland, that's her last name, also seems to be from Thurland. So the land that she is from is also... In other words, she's probably royalty, or if it's not a king and queen-led nation, then they at least seem to be of the upper echelon, to the point that they are actually named after their own... the land that they live in. And of course, Petrus, they are not really having any salty about it, just outright saying Petrus is an asshole. And that's pretty much it. It's kind of weird how much information there is about Petrus, considering they didn't really do much with him. I think the same thing. Petrus is thoroughly much in common with instructions. Now, even though it says that I'm drenched in sin, you have not sinned. He always refers to us as being sinners. He's a dick.
Thou art welcome any time. It is only human to commit a sin.
I will also point out that he has the visage, use this, I'll go ahead and do that, of someone from Kareem. He does sort of have this pale face. You can see his hair clipping through the mask there. This is unique. Whenever you put on the helmet, it doesn't do this. But he has sort of that same sort of appearance that all the people from Kareem seem to have. That pale skin. He does have white hair, which, as we remember, is considered to be antiquated in these days. I'll go ahead and try to use this. I'm just going to pull this up just to show you. Yeah, these are all cheaters, basically. These are all cheaters. So take a good look at this list. You are now famous for being little bitty cheaters. So that is one of those things where it's even worse than Demon's Souls. There were a lot of things in the game that they put in. They were supposed to represent, you know, the upper echelon of players. But people figured out how to manipulate them so easily and so quickly that they ended up just being completely worthless to everyone. One of those things, just one of those things. Okay, I think I will attempt to get back down into the depths, because there is a few things I wanted to say about the depths. By the way, you'll notice... Oh, you saw it for a brief second, but there appeared to be a sign floating midair because this down here hadn't loaded correctly. By the way, whenever you're on top of the church, it kind of looks like there is enough room for you to be able to fall down and not be injured. But it's just one of those things where it auto-kills you because it's not actually loading in the zone just yet, so it has to automatically kill you once you reach that depth. But otherwise, if that wasn't there, you probably could just jump down there. This is one of those things if you've ever wondered. But I did want to get down to the depths because I spent a lot of the time in the depths just talking about different things when I really wanted to also talk about the depths themselves. Because there is a few little things that you can construe from the depths. I will point out as we pass by and... Let's see. Yeah, I'll take the undead merchant path. I will point out that this... Hello again, buddy. Got anything new?
Oh, hello.
Just as it never go hollow, yeah. I might end up leveling up intelligence to 10 just to have him bend me things. That way I can explain this away. But again, this aqueduct that we're going to be passing under, or into at least. Again, it seems to be leveled this way. So that water is being drained, hypothetically. Usually how aqueducts work is they're being drained from a mountain or something where ice is melting, so that the water flows down from a very distant source into the sort of main central area where all the rich people are. So, taking that into account, what do you think the depths are? Because the depths are obviously much, much lower than this aqueduct is. And since they are much lower, that means that it's not really being... It's not something that is there for the sake of accumulating water. That is actually probably going to be something that Anor Londo proper is going to be handling itself since it's so close. So the depths seem to be a sewage point. That's where all the water from Anor Londo after it's been used. In other words, poopy water. We're in poopy water. That's what's going on. Well, not here. This is actually seems to be water that's draining from the central mountains. Which if we were able to get past these iron bars. Don't ask me how she got in here. But if we were able to get past these iron bars with her, and we kept going on, then it would probably lead to some sort of mountain range or something where we would have access to water or snow or whatever. But all the sewage from Anor Londo is probably flowing down into here, the depths. And that's what the depths seem to be. It's a labyrinth because it's acting as a basin for all the sewage that's collecting. And that's probably... It's probably why there's... Damn it. What if it... No, he wasn't here yet. Okay. That's probably the reason why that there's so many seem to be mutated rats and whatnot. Actually, it's not really clear if the rats are some sort of magical creatures. By the way, you can't really get over here. There's nothing up there. It's just one of those little things. Just because it's there, I want to be up there. But if I were to get up there, there's nothing there, so... But yeah, the rats themselves, I don't know what exactly they are. It could be that they have just been mutated. But you would think that they would be mutated by magic if that was the case. They are obviously, like, injured. Like, their skin and stuff is missing, their fur is missing in patches. So either they had the same sort of semi-undeath thing that sort of the dragons had, where they aren't really hollow, but they're undead, perhaps. It is not clear at all. But they, Come here, Poochie. You're the one that I'm worried about. Because you're so fucking fast. Actually, I better... Since I'm doing this, I might as well go ahead and switch back to my... By the way, Celestial, the gargoyle guarding the Bell of Awakening the Undead Church, or patrolling in Anor Londo. So it go ahead and tells you that there's going to be another one in Anor Londo. Can be used as a bronze battle axe. Bends dramatically during large attacks, owning to its nature. So I'll go ahead and show you the damn thing. But you'll notice that these little bars came up because it does have some buffs on its own. Won't go too much into it. It's not doing anything now. I think if I two-hand it, it does, you can notice it sort of visibly curves. Like it's the thing that you're holding it by moves along with you. This makes it especially obvious. One of those little things. Not a great weapon, but yeah, it's fine, I guess. Okay, now we're gonna head down here. But anyways, the rats themselves, I don't know. They could be a product of some sort of magical thing, which seems to suggest that the shit from Anor Londo that the gods are shitting out of their buttholes is magical in some way. Haha. What these things are, by the way, I really don't know. You see them everywhere. It is some sort of weird... It almost looks like flesh-like sludge. I don't know. I'll have to speculate further on that. I don't know the best way of getting down to the very lowest levels of the bed depths, but I'm just going to go this way. I'm not going to slide down there. Okay, here we are. Down here where we need to be, and it's a good thing I'm human because that should get... I think that Kirk will only appear if you are human. And these are basilisks. You've probably seen some hilarious images of them online. And of course, I'll just go ahead and point out what everyone probably already knows. That, alright, come on, get over here. There he is, there he is. I apparently slid down a little, way closer than I thought I needed to be. Alright, let me go ahead and, for fuck's sake, you goddamn rats. I'm going to have to clear some space before I do anything here. Come on, rat. Need to get you out of the way before I take care of this. Alright, now. This is Kirk. Kirk is sort of important in some ways. Obviously, he's very spiny. He's covered in thorns. I will go ahead and tell you that Kirk is associated with the Fair Lady, who we have not met yet. He is a servant of the Fair Lady, of the Chaos... Not the Chaos Covenant. Yeah, I think it is called the Chaos Covenant. I never really think too much about it. But he is, basically right now, attempting to invade you to get your humanity. Like, he is not a Dark Wraith. He's not part of the Dark Wraith Covenant, but he is a Red Invader. Go ahead and finish him off. You can sort of hear a little sheathing noise whenever he died, unusual. Go ahead and retrieve his power. And instead, we gain his humanity. which is sort of an odd little convention. And I think that's the way forward, so I'm going to go backwards a little bit and clear out the rest of this area. This is going to be a long episode. But he is a servant of hers. He is gathering humanity for his own reasons. You assume that everyone that is gathering humanity is doing so for selfish reasons, because obviously humanity is very important. And of course, I will go ahead and mention that if you get hit by this gas, then that will curse you. And some people really have a big problem with this. But me, I've never really had any issue with avoiding being cursed. I think I've only been cursed once, and I think that was whenever I had put down my controller and I was paying attention to something else and one of them jumped me or something. That's weird. My HUD is flickering wildly. Oh well, that's probably nothing. The episode's been long enough, so if it abruptly ends, then I've done my job. Let's go ahead and finish you off. And I think this is the lowest level. And you'll notice that they did not trigger until I walked in front of them. That's because they are deaf. These things are deaf, and of course, as I was trying to say earlier, the big things that you think are their eyes are not actually their eyes. If I can kill them here. Go ahead and show this. I don't really have a good visual on any of them. Maybe if I can get him to turn over. No. But anyways, they have two little beady tiny eyes, and those are their real eyes. Whereas the gigantic things on their face right here are actually just... they're just sort of evolved features, I guess is the implication. But their actual eyes are just two little itty-bitty little things that you can just barely see that are right above their mouths. But they're ragdolling so fucking hard right now that his, like, mouth is going into his ass. An unpleasant experience, to be sure. So I can't really see it. And these statues that you will sometimes see, which would have been more common on release, are people that have been petrified. They're actual players that have been petrified. And you can drop down from here. My curse bar hasn't risen yet. I'll try to walk in a little bit. No, it's not going up. Oh, well, I guess you're just not going to see it. But whenever you are hit by that fog, then your curse meter will start to rise. And if it fills out completely, then of course, you get frozen. Now, Ring of the Evil Eye. Not really that important of a ring. Of course, you saw absorbs health from fallen enemies. According to legend, this ring contains the spirit of the Evil Eye, a dark beast which assaulted Astora. The strength of the Evil Eye does not waver, and health points is absorbed from fallen enemies. So remember Astora? Astora could be interpreted as being... It is a nation, but it could also be interpreted as being a literal person. Maybe some sort of mythological figure or whatnot. So whether it's referring to an actual human being or not is not really clear. But it is something that assaulted them, and it seems to be insinuated that it may have been a basilisk of some sort. Let's see if I can make this jump. There we go. You have to kind of turn the corner, just to give us one alone humanity. Otherwise, you drop through this grate. These damn little holes are very irritating in this area. Okay, but I think that's pretty much everything in this area that we need to get. And every single time I try to leave this area, I become very disoriented. Yes, this way. And as I recall, we turn right. And there's nothing there, of course. We go down? Down? Is this how it works? There's nothing there. Good. Oh, this place is so shitty. And now that's where Kirk is, and there's nothing there. Okay, the place is now clear. I'm pretty certain. And this is dead end. Yes, it's a dead end. Good. Okay, this is why I hate going down into the depths. Not because I can't find my way out, just because it's kind of a mess. No rats in here. People are wondering, why are there rats in boxes? I don't know. Probably because the developers thought it would be funny. There's a lot of that in these games. One of the problems with FromSoft games, Miyazaki games specifically, and we're back here, as you can see. Right back to where Xena was. Xena, I keep doing it. Domhnall. Right where Domhnall was. And I think I will... Yes, I see you, sweetheart. But I think I'll go up here and go ahead and rest. That way I have myself flagged it being this bonfire just in case. May not make it before this poison triggers just because that fucking rat. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to. Might as well just go ahead and use it. I'm not going to... You are fucking shitting me! You little dick face. You actually followed me up here just to hit me in the back. Fucking rats. And of course, as you can see, their skin is sort of eaten away. Again, why that is, who knows? Maybe it is because of magical Anorlando poop. Or maybe it's because they've just been mutated because because this is a sewer, and that's probably the reason why. Developers probably thought, well, there's sewer rats, so it probably would be fitting that, really? I had my shield up. That it would be, fitting if they were just looked sort of mutated. Okay. Now we come down here, and I'll think I might be able to get the Gaping Dragon for this episode. This is probably going to be about an hour and 30 minutes long if I'm not careful. But fitting for a podcast episode, isn't it? All the same, I'll go ahead and try to... Nah, better be careful. Make sure that these little assholes don't follow me again. But here we are going to enter the, the basin proper. Where all the... You can't go this way. That's trying to say. It looks like you can, but you can't. But this is where supposedly all the sewage used to drain. As you'll notice, in theory, this place at some point could have been completely filled with water, I suppose. It depends on how this place works. But I would assume that because of all the layers, like all the levels that we see here, that this was supposed at one point planned or was used to drain various points and be used in that way. That if the water was at a set level, I forgot, it's down here. That if the water was at a set level, you could just pull a lever somewhere, and it would empty out to that level, and so on. That's the reason why this place is so big. And that's probably what the function of this area was. There's nothing down here. I have to make absolutely sure, because it's been a while. This is a summon sign for a Solaire, I think. Or it was at Lautrec. Oh, the same heavy crossbow bow. Now, this is Lautrec. Lautrec's is always off in a corner somewhere. Let's go ahead and pull him out just for the hell of it. Now, one of these guys, I think it is Lautrec, but one of these guys has absolutely abysmal health in this fight. Like, they will die almost instantly. Go ahead and switch to my Claymore once again. Just because, again, its moveset is probably better suited for getting the tail that I'm going to be after. If I don't get this thing, then again, I'm going to quit out because I want the tail. I will never use the weapon. I will never use it. But also I want to show it, and also it gives me a chance to bitch, basically, because I hate this system. I know people really love, and two especially, people complain, how come you can't do that anymore? You can cut off the tail, but you don't get anything. I like that. Because I'm a completionist. Okay. Hey guys, what's going on up here? That looks like a little alligator. Oh. Nah, that's no alligator. Maybe it's a crocodile. Okay. But we really need to get this guy's tail. This is the one dragon in this whole game that I actually like. Because, as you can see, it's not a dragon. You know, it's supposedly... Oh, it used to be... This used to be supposedly one of the ancient dragons. You have to be careful because, he can get you... He can clip you very easily. This used to be one of the ancient dragons, and the reason why I think that it'll show in either his, yeah, it should show once we get his tail. This may be chopping a little bit too close or too far away. I'm not really sure. There we go, okay, there we go. Okay, now we don't have to worry about that anymore. And as you can see, Lautrec is, if you can make it out through all this DS space bullshit, both of these guys are basically almost dead. Which is going to be a bit of a problem. I should have used pine resin. But I guess I'm not overly concerned about the sunlit metals, which is really the reason why you want to keep them alive. but he's probably going to... Oh, for God's sake. Another one of these things about these incredibly large enemies, that even if you sort of just barely nudge them, then it'll injure you. But this used to be one of the ancient dragons. No longer, obviously, much of a dragon. He supposedly became this way because of its greed, its insatiable hunger. And that's the reason why its entire body has now turned into one gigantic mouth. Well, there goes someone. Yeah, it's still there. He's gone. Well, no sunlight metal for me. It's odd because usually it's Lautrec that's the one that is the one that goes first. The thing I'm most trying to avoid is he has a move that spits a bunch of shit on the ground that can damage your equipment, and I definitely want to avoid that. But it is assumed that because he was, you know, so fixated on his mouth, you know, eating, that, you know, having him here is a good place to be, because supposedly he's been down here eating all the waste that was coming from Anor Londo, which is a very rich area. So obviously there would be a lot of, he doesn't have a tail, so that doesn't work too well. This would be the prime place to collect all of the food that everyone is discarding. Or maybe he just ate diarrhea all day. No, I'm not here to judge, man, but it's pretty gross. He's almost dead. You need to be absolutely sure that I'm careful about this. I think the very first time that I tried to kill this thing, I had a big problem. Of course, right now it's much easier because I have summons with me. Otherwise, he would be focusing on me exclusively. Whoop, I'm probably going to get grabbed. No, I'm good. I'm good. What if I can get him before not the Lautrec dies? Should be... Yeah, okay. You never got to see it, but he does have a move in which he just barfs a bunch of shit on the ground, and that will damage all your equipment that I really wanted to avoid. Good job, Lautrec. Good job. And I got another twin humanity, so maybe that's something that exclusive to him. That's an unusual thing to think about. If he gives you twin humanities, that suggests that is something that is you know. How does that pertain to him? Does that mean that he used to be a twin? Does that have something to do with the... If we get his armor later on, this will make more sense. But it could also have something to do with... I wonder if this says anything. It may also have something to do with the relationship with the goddess that he is infatuated with. Hold on. Okay. Eye of Death on play on Melissa Phantoms from Other Worlds. I don't think I've ever even used one of these. The dreadful Eyes of Death spread disaster across neighboring worlds. Phantom's Lord... Oh, right. I'll explain more of this later. Phantom's Lord to the host world may end up as victims, allowing the Eyes of Death to multiply, leading to further proliferation of Bane. One of these things that didn't work quite as well as they had hoped it would work. And I got the key. Let's go ahead and do this one last time. This is the Blighttown key, wasn't it? Yes. Key to Blighttown. From the depths of the undead berg, swallowed by the gaping dragon. As the name suggests, the Blighttown is a place of great pestilence. Even the polluted inhabitants of the depths are aware of its dangers, and built this mighty door in hopes that they would remain safely separated. So let's go ahead and run back here real fast, and I'll end this part in the exact same part that I ended the last one. But we're going to be... I don't know if I'm going to go down to the depths first thing. Because once we go down there, Lautrec is going to have his own business to take care of. So I'm probably going to dick around a little bit up top with a few things before we take care of anything down below there. But I do want to unlock this area, just to have it unlocked. But this normally is considered to be... You notice that the filter kicked in, and everything is now shitty. But we're going to be having possibly a lot of frame rate issues, which isn't really a PC thing, it's just the way the engine handles is not great.
We meet again.
Okay, do you have anything this time?
I'm afraid I don't see
Not a thing. Alright, you've been super helpful.
Well, that is a shame.
Thanks, Tom Hall. Alright, but that's enough out of that, as I am sneaked up upon by this naughty slime. No. But I will see you guys in part 7, and we'll take care of some more shit here. I hope the fact that this was a podcast episode was offset by the fact that I beat 2 bosses. But I will see you guys next time. No. Okay.